We're here with Gabi from Google. We're here to talk about all the cool things that she's been doing and, maybe just catch up a little because, it's been an age and a half since we've seen each other at a conference because we can't travel anywhere. We're all just stuck at home. So, Gabi, how has home been treating you? And maybe tell us a little bit about, what you've been working on.
So I think last time I saw it was Percona Live 2019.
2019, has it been that long? I feel like
2019. Yeah, in Austin was the first one you made outside of California, right? No.
Yes, that was the first one outside of California. Yes.
Yeah. So I met a lot of fun people there. I did a talk. Didn't have that many people there on my talk. There were other more interesting talks, but so I don't know if for people who don't know me, I'm a developer advocate at Google. So what it means is I am not sales. I'm not marketing. What I like to describe, I am a software engineer that teaches other software engineers how to use our products, but not unlike you have to use it. Like, for instance, I talk about MySQL, which doesn't belong to Google.
Hey, yes. It's kind of like Percona in that regard. Like, we don't own MySQL, yet we talk a lot about it, right? So,
and you contribute to the source code sometimes too with bug reports. I have seen.
Oh yes, we do a lot of contributions. We also have our own versions, but yes.
Yeah, I know. I do open some bugs, and I think there's one still open though. Whatever.
There's one open with us. There's a bug open at Percona or with MySQL.
MySQL. I open like it's 14.
Okay, well,
and in fact, actually version 5.7 too.
5.7. Oh, well, that's
5.7 and 8.
Yesterday's news.
No,
both. Yeah. Oh, both. So Gabi, you do a lot of connecting, folks to the right technology, helping them, guide their thing. I know you have office hours.
Yeah, I do.
So people can show up and just ask you questions. They can schedule something, right?
Yeah, it's free, so you don't need to worry. I won't need credit card information.
So you don't charge them anything, just their time?
No, it's actually Google paying for it.
It's Google-sponsored free advice from...
Yeah, for databases. And it doesn't need to be about Google product at all. Like, some people come with me and like, I'm using RDS for this, and that. It's like, fine. And for me, it's also cool because, like, I don't have as much time as I want to do research on other... I don't want to say competing products, but other platforms, because as I said, like, I do talk about MySQL, and I'm very friends with Frederick Descamps, which is LaFred, and Dave Stokes. I love those guys too a lot, and we get along very well, although there's some other things going on, but not the subject here. But particularly between us, the Denver community, we're very, very friendly. So I actually love hearing about other people's problems on other platforms, so I can not like spy, but mostly say, how can I avoid that happen to our platform?
So you're saying you're not a spy?
I'm not.
Oh, okay. Because I wanted to clarify because you said not a spy.
No, I know. Lawyer cats. I'm not a spy. We call them the lawyer cats. Now, actually, there's some agreements that we can use. So, like, if you notice a blog post from Google launching a product, and there is a product from somewhere else, have you noticed that the access never has numbers?
Oh, yeah.
That's fine.
All right. Okay. Interesting. So Gabi, you've been in the MySQL space for a while. You've been helping people. Maybe tell us, are there some really interesting, things that you've been seeing lately? Some trends and what people are using, how they're using it. I know you've been working a lot with Spanner, for instance. Maybe what sort of things are you seeing now as the hot topics?
So just a pet peeve. That was because the other DevRel person from Cloud would say, when I would say this way, he would always correct me. It's called Spanner. So Spanner, there is a Spanner. The Spanner is the internal version of Google. Cloud Spanner is the external version that customers can use.
So thank you for clarifying.
Yeah, it's not the same thing. It is the same thing, but it's not the same thing,
Okay, so Cloud Spanner.
I've been helping them because it's not specifically because I usually prefer open source technology like MySQL, Postgres, but I have a lot of enterprise customers And one thing, it doesn't depend on the size of the customers. And I think at Percona have the same problem. People ask me, how do I manage my schema migrations? I'm not talking moving from RDS to Cloud SQL or from Azure to AWS. I'm talking like, how do I apply, I don't know, when I add a new column, how do I do that on my pipeline? Because like what a lot of people have is like, they have a monolith. Even though they say they don't, but even though it's a microservice architecture, you have to have a main application somewhere. And usually that main application is what it has, the database migrations. And that can be in Java using Hibernate, could be in Django, I don't know the name of, or I don't know if SQL, Alchemy, or whatever. There is, on PHP, you can use Doctrine or Laravel. So Rails, you use Active Record. So like every language, main framework has their own migration tool.
Yeah.
And that's fine if you're only working with that one. But when you start having microservices that technically shouldn't, but they are connected to the same database, and that happens a lot. So I'm not there to tell them how they should run their business, because if they're giving them money, I have no position to give them advice. They are no better than me. But like, so if they're doing that, which most people are doing it, I'm like, so you're gonna deploy your microservice code and they need to change a database. So you're going to have to deploy in two different places because the migration is on the main application and the thing is on the other. And if you don't do that, how, like, for instance, Doctrine checks before if the database schema is the same, and Rails does the same. So yeah, you need to keep that on the main application, else it's going to flop when you turn on. And anyway, just to say, like, what
That's
I haven't telling, it is. So what I've been telling clients is like, if you do microservice for any scale, you should treat your either migration as a microservice that's its own, or whatever a CI/CD pipeline to deploy, not tied to your main application or your microservice code. And one of the ways that the main tool that I like coding is is Liquibase, which is, there's an open source and paid version, and Flyway, which I don't know how work much is, but also they're all, as far as I know, both Java tools. But it doesn't matter, because like if you're using GitHub Actions, you can connect to another container, and I have a container running Liquibase, which is like, you don't have to install Java or whatever to run. It's a jar, and then have specifically a repo, let's say, for your migrations, and then you do your migrations. So like it's kind of like, I know for case-to-case changes, according to the company, but it's just an example, like a simple example on how to do that. And notice since I GitHub Actions, even though Google has called Build, which it is also CI/CD pipeline, I don't try to push that. That's why I like being an advocate. I don't have to push.
Right. You can let them choose, and you can kind of guide them to different, the best solution for them, right? So the best solution for the job. Yeah. And, it's interesting because this is a problem that has plagued developers, DAs,
I hope
everybody
for ages. To have that. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And the new version of MySQL 8023 actually has invisible columns, which is very interesting because it can help this a little bit, because you could actually add the columns, make them invisible. So applications that decide to do a select star, or frameworks that decide to do a select star, will often break with some of those new columns unless things are fixed in the application.
I didn't look at new version. Yeah, I didn't have time. It's kind of...
You haven't looked at the new version? Oh, fall behind, huh?
I am. I told you. I have too many things to do.
Too many things to do. Oh, that's okay. Yeah. That's okay. Oh, by the way, many people might be wondering why we're wearing propeller hats today. And so the reason for the propeller hats is because I love attention and I always strive to get more attention at conferences. Years and years ago, I wore this hat. This was actually a prize for an internal Percona thing at a conference. And I wore this hat at the conference so people would find me, right? And so I'd be like, hey, just find the guy with the propeller hat. And then when I stopped wearing it, everybody complained. And so then it became a thing where everybody wanted me to wear the hat at conferences. And they'd be like, I don't recognize you without your hat. Where's your hat? And then I wore it, and then everyone would take selfies with me. And so now it's just kind of like got a life of its own. And so now, Gabi knows me for the hat because we've,
and I decided to like get my Noogler because they give you orientation. And it's funny because even with onboarding remote, people still getting their Propeller hats,
Oh, yeah. Well, because everybody wants the hat. It's kind of cool.
It's part of the culture,
Yeah. Well, you got Noogle, I got Nerd. So I don't know.
So my go-to visibility tool on conferences, if you notice, I always use ties.
Oh, okay.
If you look at talks that I have on YouTube, most of my conferences talks, I'm using a tie. A butter shirt and a tie.
Is it one of those ties though that you could put like the beer in? They have beer ties. I don't know if you've seen that.
No, it's a real tie, a male tie. I know how to do ties.
Well, I'm just saying though, but you can get a tie that will hold your beer while you talk.
No, I don't drink beer though. And
okay, and who holds your soda or your water bottle or your anything? They're bottle holder ties. I'm telling you, like it's worthwhile to explore.
Well, we live in the U.S., so you could put a flask on,
Could put a flask. There's all kinds of things. I'm just saying, it's a universe. It's not only a tie, it's also a beverage holder, which is kind of
I haven't seen yet. Oh, gosh. No, but it became because unfortunately, brains work weird ways. And I would still do makeup and stuff like that. And it was a fitted shirt, not different like this one. It's like lumberjack shirt. But I use a tie because it would actually make people would think I would know more. It's the bias, unconscious bias. Oh, like she's dressing more masculine, so she probably knows more. And that works.
Really? Wow, that's crazy that would be something you'd have to do.
Some conferences where I didn't wear the tie. I got a lot of actuallys, and even people interrupting me mid talk. Yes. Oh, when I'm on stage, people would interrupt me.
That's horrible. That's horrible.
And when I wear the tie, people always would comment, "Oh, that's a nice tie." And sometimes I would match the color scheme with my presentation, just to make a bit of fun. But people never actually me when I was with the tie. They would ask questions and stuff, but it was more respectful. So it may be causation or correlation thing, but it's too much of a coincidence, to ignore.
Wow. No, that's horrible that you'd have to wear a tie to get some sort of respect. I mean, that's just.
It's the unconscious bias, I know.
Well, just realize that I will question you whether you have a tie on or not, just because. That's the way that I am. I am an equal opportunity complainer. So just snap one.
Oh yeah, I remember when I went to PHP UK once. I lived in UK and never thought there would be doing Devrel or anything. And Morgan Tucker was still working at Oracle, and he was a developer evangelist there. And at that time, 5.7 was still the main version, and it pissed me off that the Oracle documentation at the time for descending columns, it didn't exist on 5.7. So I had a problem with, for me it was a big database at the time, it has 12 million rows, and we needed to order by date to descending. And even though the syntax allowed to be descending, it took me days to realize it wasn't doing the same.
It wasn't working right.
No. And then I read the documentation and I was like, oh, and a lot of my talk was saying this. Sorry, my dog is barking on that.
That's okay.
It would say, although the desk is acceptable syntax, it's not implemented yet. I was like, seriously? And then I just asked Morgan, I was like, dude, when are you going to implement this? I need this.
And did he get it for you specifically?
I don't think so. I think it was already coming and he couldn't say anything. But I put it on my talks. I finally have this index, and people don't get it how big of that thing was for me.
Well, it's those little things though, right? Like it's the little things that matter. And when they don't work right, they're just annoying, right? They just like, I'm so annoyed.
I'm like, why is it like, if it doesn't work, why don't I get a warning? You know?
Well, so Morgan's at TiDB now. Again, he came back. And
I'm
he's
not
doing
sure.
development. Yeah, he is. I actually just did a recording with him a week ago. And so that'll be coming out shortly as well. So but I didn't know to give him grief on that. And so next time I talk to him, I'll make sure that I'll bring up.
He said he doesn't remember that I did that because he probably was harassed for a lot of people.
Okay.
I talked to him after when I joined Google. I was like, I'm so sorry that I harassed you in a conference. He's like, I don't recall. It was like, fine.
Yeah, wow. So Peter used to harass me during my sessions. Just so you know,
really?
like, oh yes, yeah, he was very bad. Like he was, I would be up there and I'd be like, so if you look at this benchmark here, and he's like, your benchmark's wrong. And it's like,
no, but I didn't do like that. I like was in it when he finished his talk. I was like, so why did this happen?
So you waited till the question and answer. So that was better.
After he finished everything, I'm not like, hey, I don't like the. Well, as I said, a lot of people love doing well actually, and I don't like when people do that to me, so I don't do that to people. So when I have an honest question that I disagree with the person, I actually take them aside. It's like, what question? And
yes, etiquette. Yeah. No. So you coming into the DevRel role, you spoke a lot before joining Google, but how did you get into the DevRel role specifically?
Well, I would like to say it was organic. It wasn't. So it was like, I was living in Brazil at the time. My English was way worse. And you'll see that I have a lot of grammar errors, pronunciation errors, because I learned English on my own. So,
well hold on. I was born in the U.S. and have spoken English for all my life, and I have more grammar errors than probably anyone else I know. So don't feel bad. Like I'm just saying, like I'm horrible at spelling and grammar. That's not my thing. But anyways, continue on.
So I learned English on my own, and I want to, as being the token woman in most companies, and I noticed how the Brazilian society is, and I was like, I don't want to work here anymore. I want to get out. So then I started thinking how people can actually hire me, actually want to hire me, and I thought they don't know me. Why they would hire me? They don't know me. So I started applying to conferences to speak at about software engineering database, which I was doing. I wasn't a data engineer at the time, but I mostly worked with databases. So I was like, what do I use? PHP. What people are most using? MySQL. I even have a blog come out. I used to hate MySQL. So I was like, okay. It's for the greater good. I can talk about it. But my objective was how to help developers do better with the database, because people have a lot of assumptions, and most of the times they're wrong because they think SQL is easy. The ORM is going to do all the job that they need, and they don't need a DBA or a data engineer to help them at all. And that's how I come from the developer side. And when I applied to Percona, I didn't get the job, by the way, because I didn't know operations much.
I remember we talked. I was very nice to you.
No, I'm not complaining about it. But that's usually what was biting me back, was the fact that I didn't have much operations experience, but much more developer experience.
Yeah, and we're
my fault.
Yeah. No, it was your fault.
No, your core business is a bit different from what I was doing. So makes sense. Yeah, I just wanted to make fun of you. So anyway,
that's so mean.
It was a thought process. So I decided people need to know me. I need to apply to conference. So I started blog posting more and applying to conference until someone decided, hey, that's an interesting topic here. But then there's a problem though. I live in Brazil. The conversion to Brazil to dollar, it's not good. So whatever you think, a lot of money is a low paying job is in the US. I was making even less than that. Even though for Brazilian standards a good salary, but it's still, I had to buy the plane ticket, the hotel.
Oh yeah.
I could only do conferences that could pay for my travel. I don't need pay me as a speaker, but pay for my travel.
Yeah, I mean that could get expensive with all a lot of travel.
Well, before I joined Google, every talk I gave was when they covered the travel. I couldn't do it at all. I couldn't attend a conference at all. Honestly, because conferences are not cheap, and that was my way to network. And that's how I started. So it was a conscious decision. So my first step was to get but I wasn't thinking about DevOps specifically. I just wanted to be hired as a software engineer so I could, get out of my country and have a better life because,
Makes sense.
help my family and stuff like that. So it actually worked. I got my first job a year after that I set it up with. And honestly, it was a good company, but let's say they took advantage of the fact I was an expat and offer me less money than I could have been making. But also I was in a bad situation personally in Brazil. I wanted to get out. So I was like, whatever, I'll figure that out. That's probably for future me. So let's take this opportunity.
Right.
And after that, I started doing more talks because there's much more you do. People more know you. And then I started diving into my SQL 8. And when I was now I have blog posts for 801, when it was alpha preview or whatever. And that was 2015, I think, 16 when they started talking about it.
Right.
And I was already following it because I wanted to be inside and be a reference about it. That's why I said, they already have a new version. So as I said, you're getting behind. I'm like, yeah, that's true. But that's how I joined DevOps in the end. Then I moved to the US for personal reasons. And couldn't work because of visa reasons. And I could still do speaking engagement, but I couldn't have any compensation for it because, visa rules. But I did one in Washington, D.C., PHP World. And my husband drove me there. He paid for the hotel. And the only thing I didn't pay for was the ticket. And as a speaker, I don't think that counts as a paid engagement, I'm gonna speak there. Why I'm gonna pay for my own ticket, I mean, there are conferences that do that, but the reason is completely different. The ticket is usually way cheaper when that happens.
So let me ask you this, right? So there's probably many other people who are in a similar boat to what you were early on, right? Maybe they feel like they're in that male dominated world. They're in a country that they don't necessarily think that they can, thrive in. Do you have advice? Going through what you've done, what would you do the same or different that might help?
So, I get sometimes a bit of criticism because, I write articles and videos all in English. I don't do in Portuguese. And although people say they are learned by themselves, you never learn by themselves. You learn because community helped you. Someone wrote the docs, someone made the job of translation, and the PHP docs in Portuguese are amazing. Actually, one of the fewest languages that didn't know English yet, was the only language that I could actually learn because they had the Portuguese translation. So just to paddle a bit back, I get a lot of criticism because I don't give much to my own language, to the Brazilian community itself. But I'm going to be honest, mostly because I forgot Portuguese.
Oh, okay.
The terms, some terms, there is no translation, and sometimes new concepts. And I don't want to sound pedantic, mixing Portuguese with English, and a lot of Brazilian natives don't like that. So they're very protective of the language. So first of all, learning a second language, English is going to be the easiest because even if you move to Germany, whatever, if you're Googling something technical, the chances are that you're going to find something if it is you Google in English. That's where most of the Stack Overflow responses
right.
are.
Yeah.
Documentation's English, usually too. So, but being able to show, people said, I hate those people that said your GitHub should be your resume. Don't fall for that. A lot of people work for private companies where, especially enterprise, you don't publish your code. You talk about projects, but you have an NDA sign, So you need to show that you're good. Yes, GitHub helps, but that favors mostly males. because I was joking. Women, we have like triple journey. We have our own job, our house job, stuff for the house, and also need to look pretty too. So we have 3 jobs. Males usually just have one job, which is do their job. They don't shave. They don't do dishes. I'm not saying all males, but so expect someone that has 3 jobs to also do open source. It's unfair, in my opinion. So like, it's unfortunately you're gonna have to get on the board to study on the weekend because you don't have this same privilege as other people. Like I did all my talks on my spare time. I would do traveling on my vacation time, even though it was for conference. So unfortunately, if you are underrepresented group, not just women, like you will have to work double because we don't have the same starting point as other people. And that's something, unfortunately, depends a lot on the personal situation. So that doesn't have a rule. You're going to have to figure out what is your best cadence to reach a goal. So I would say, put up a long goal and then say, how do I get there? And start listing. Like my goal was, I want to get out of this country because they don't value my work. And so how did I get there? People need to hire me. For what they need to hire me? So like all the thought process to go, even it's a problem solving. So how do you get there? I'm not saying speaking at conferences is going to make you. Maybe just going on, if you have time, go to the GitHub documentation and people say, just contribute to open source. Yeah, a lot of open source projects are very, very, very close. Like it's a club. It's hard to get in. So you can do Stack Overflow questions. You can do like documentation. People like saying, that's not good. Yeah, like if you start with the documentation and get to understand a lot of the project, and in the future you get to do actually meaning coding contributions. So I think docs, people dismiss it, but like I think it's good to learn a bit about the project, and then you get a reputation with the maintainers, and then you can actually do something because, as I said, it is a club. It is not as open as people think it is.
Well, so what can we do as an open source community to be more inclusive? Like, what do you think it would be good first steps for maintainers of projects or for the open source teams that do have more responsibility? How do we open those clubs up?
So it's a bit of a double sword because I know a lot of open source maintainers and a lot of people that would like to come to contribute, but let's talk about a good analogy. We work in tech. How many recruiters emails you get per week?
Oh, emails? Just emails? Just regular
LinkedIn requests with just a message. Hey, let's connect. I work for this amazing startup. I have this project that has blockchain. Every time someone says blockchain, I sent a spam. But
okay. Yeah.
But as a software engineer, I'm sorry, my mom's calling me. Sorry.
You can put her on if you want.
No. So as an open source, as a software engineer, we complain about recruiters, right? But it's one of those things, a good problem to have. So I think that's the same thing that happens with open source maintainers. They get a lot of pull requests. And honestly, sometimes they're not good pull requests. I understand that. But sometimes someone just being honest and trying to reach you. So that's I said it's a double sword question because on one side you have someone that's sometimes about inexperienced with project. It's all no. And you have this side of person that knows a lot about the project and gets like hundreds of PRs per week. So they're jaded, and you're trying to. It's a tough wall to overcome, So I see both sides, and I understand both sides, but like both sides need to have what I say, it's empathy, and that's what I like about that file. It's like we think about empathy at first. So even though you may be reviewing, it's hard and it's tiresome and it is energy consuming, and like. Putting yourself in someone else's shoes, even though their code may be wrong, and honestly nitpicking because I just ask them, like, if it's just a length problem, run yourself the length and fix the PR, Like, don't diminish someone else's work just because, you use 2 spaces instead of 4, but like, seriously? Like, that's your main issue with the whole thing? Like, don't you have a lint on your project? Because if you don't have set up on your open source project a lint, that's why you're doing this in the first place, you know? So
well, and this is where, yeah, I think that, one of the things I've been thinking a lot about around trying to get more people, more diversity in the open source space, is really about mentorship. I mean, there's so many people who know how, things work. But you're right, like a lot of them are busy. I think that there needs to be a real concerted effort to dedicate time to helping people. And that doesn't necessarily just mean on code. It could be, you mentioned speaking and getting, speaking spots, like helping people polish their presentation skills or.
Yeah, that's a good question. There is some, I know the PHP community has a website. I don't remember now. It's like, Help Me CFP, Help Me Abstract, I think it is the name of the website. So you submit your talk and there's people volunteering to help you create an abstract for your thing. And also, actually, you can, if you know the conference organizers, it's hard to know, but like usually when you're doing most good conference, in my opinion, has like the thing for the abstract and an extra box. We say, oh, this is for the people analyzing the CFP. Say, hey, like me, English is not my first language. So if there is any grammars, I can fix it later, but that's what I meant, and that's the goal of this talk. So like sometimes it's not as clear in an abstract. It doesn't mean it is a bad talk. So maybe adding the extra field so people can explain a bit about more of the talk that you want to give, because abstract is to be like, let's say clickbait, So what you show as an abstract, it shouldn't be the only thing I think conferences organizers should be looking at, but also the intention. And that's why the extra box, it's good, And also say, hey, I know you have a lot of talks to look forward, but this is my intention with this talk, and give a bit of background. Don't write an essay there. Just say like, this is my goal. And if it is not grammar perfectly, or if there's some wrong term, it's out of like lack of knowledge for the language or, that kind of thing. So people can actually put themselves in your shoes, because else they're going to just think like, oh, they don't know what they're talking about, And the problem is that we're so dismissive. If someone gets some part of the lingo wrong,
Yeah, we have to be mindful that we have to assume really good intentions. We have to treat everyone with the same respect we would want to be treated with, right? And that's very important.
And one analogy just to finish, not about that. Percona has one of the Percona tools is one for migrations actually. Like when let me look. Oh, my friend sent me.
PT schema or PT online schema change?
Yeah. So I never used it, I'm going to be honest. But like I was talking to a friend that started using GCP at their job. And they're like, oh, how do I do on Cloud SQL, which is a product that I do, how do I like change something without having downtime? Like a big change that's going to take hours, me lock tables, rows, whatever. So how can I run this on a replica and then like promote that to replica and then, I was like, on Cloud SQL specifically, I don't think that even on RDS you can do that, because once it is a replica, it is a replica. It's read-only. You cannot change it. That's the purpose of a replica. It is not to be changeable. So you're gonna have to compromise it to them. Like and then I started giving some examples. Like you could, I don't know, create a new. You mentioned the new invisible columns. That's a good example on how to do that kind of thing. But like, I didn't know about that. When I was talking to them.
Well, it's new. It's brand new.
It's brand new. But this advice, I also thought about relation database agnostic. Postgres or MySQL would be the same approach. And so like, if you're planning a column and it usually is an online operation, so you won't have any problem with blocking rows. Of course, there's some specificities, like if it has a default value, so things change. But rule it out. If you're just appending a column, like fine. But if you're like you want to change the type of a column, that's a bit more tricky, because like let's say your foreign is going to big int, and then like on Postgres, for instance, if you have a foreign key that's integer, but linking to a big end actually accepted MySQL complaint. So like it depends a lot on the database. So but let's say you want to increase from int to big end. It's going to be a locking row operation because it's going to have to change, copy the whole table, you know? So I was like, well, if it's not the primary key, let's say it's another column, you can create a new column, create a trigger, and I don't like triggers, don't do triggers. And I went through a whole algorithm of how to do that. And then like, oh, that's PT, and they told about the tool. And then I look at it like, oh, that's the whole algorithm. And I was like, damn, I'm good. I was like,
oh.
What was I?
So you reinvented PT online schema change.
I mean, I didn't implement it, but that was the whole algorithm that I talked about. I mean, one tweak thing I didn't test it, but like it was. But my point is like when I talk about lingo, that's what I'm gonna want to get. I didn't know the right thing to look for. There is already a tool that does that, but I didn't know, you know. So it doesn't mean I'm a bad engineer for not knowing it, but I knew the algorithm, and my algorithm was basically the same. So am I a bad engineer for not knowing that? You know what I'm saying?
No. Let's be honest. There are hundreds of thousands, millions of tools and projects. There's no way you can know them all. I mean, just MySQL alone. If you go to GitHub on MySQL, there's over 140,000 projects. Mm-hmm. And do you know how many HA projects there are? Over 1,000 high availability projects. So,
wow.
Yeah. So figuring out like what's out there. Could somebody have done something that you have an idea on? Sure. I mean, I guess they could.
But how look for that?
Oh, you can't. Like, honestly, like, you know, like, I mean, you can go out and type in MySQL, and you can type in MySQL HA. But even that, like, if you get 2,000 results, you're not going to go through all 2,000. You're going to be like, all right, yeah. Maybe you'll look at the top rated ones, and if it doesn't do what you want, then you're just going to say, like, oh, I need to write it. But yeah, it's an interesting dilemma there because there is quite a bit of stuff out there. But I mean, you know, in terms of like understanding, like, you know, the tool sets, the change, how it's referenced, it's one of the benefits and drawbacks in the open source space is you can create anything rapidly. You can start to prototype. You can start to fork. You can start to modify. But then you have kind of this hydra and all these tentacles that you might not be able to know what's actually out there and what state it's in. So it's a challenge.
Yeah, and then I mentioned to my friend that works at GitLab. He's like, oh, I think Ghost, the one for GitHub.
Oh, yeah, Ghost. Yep.
And he's like, oh, it does the same thing. I was like, didn't know. I was like, damn it. Like, but then, as I said, like, I have my job to do. I have work to do at home. I have 2 puppies. I was like, I cannot possibly be aware of all open source projects out there, you know?
It isn't. It's challenging. It really is. I mean, like I said, there's so much. It's crazy, you know. But Gabi, I know you told me that you had a meeting in a few minutes. So I do not want to make you late for talking to your boss.
Yeah, that's 40 minutes.
Yes. I don't want to make you late for that. That would be horrible. But I do appreciate you coming on and chatting with me for a little while. Thank you very much. I appreciate you, being open and candid with us, and also for talking at Percona Lives in the past, and appreciate that.
Yeah, I love working. I love every time someone asks me, something. Also, did you talk to the Percona people? They're good about it.
Well, we appreciate it.
No, I'm referring people to you. Seriously, I don't know if they say, "Oh, Gabi sent me here," but like, I'm always referring them to you. I was like, you should talk to them.
We have our Gabi scorecard. It's like we keep tally.
I should put like a coupon code, like
coupon code. Yes, yeah. We'll give you a Gabi coupon. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe to our channel. Go ahead and like this video. You can also follow us on Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, and everywhere that Percona is. We appreciate it and looking forward to seeing you next week.